Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. That was a very, very scrappy win by Napoli in a stadium that we always struggle in, whether we are playing well or whether we're playing bad. When we go to Empoli, it's always a scrap. It's been like that since the days of Diego Armando Maradona, guys. In the year of our first Scudetto, this team was not able to win away from home at Empoli. We've had some of our worst defeats in recent memory at Empoli, both with Spalletti in his first year, when we lost to Sarri when he was the Empoli manager. It was not away from home, but at home against Empoli. It was one of Garcia's worst games, and that was his final game last Christmas. How times have changed since last Christmas. But this is a team that historically is very, very difficult for us to play against. I don't know why that's the case. There's nothing particular about Empoli's style of play that should make it difficult for Napoli. I mean, yes, they are coached well, they're organized, they're structured, they run a lot. These are the two teams that run the most in Italy, actually. But I think mentally for players, you start reading these stats and then you start believing that there's something there that's blocking you. And you start then, yeah, you start basically making those things true. I don't know how many of you guys read horoscopes or not, but I feel like sometimes, you read that you're going to have a good day and that influences you and you have a good day, or you read that you're going to have a bad day and that influences you and then you actually end up having a bad day, which is why, personally, I'm not really into that. But I feel like this in sports happens a lot. When you read that there's a team that you always struggle against, it seems like that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Before I get into the game, guys, I want to remind you that yesterday I went to see an exhibition of Diego Armando Maradona here in Barcelona, organized by a group of Argentinians. So it was very much Argentina focused, a little bit on Napoli and his time at Barca, but really it was a lot to do with his time in Argentina. It was a very cool experience. I made a video about it. So after this live, go check it out if you haven't. It's like a very quick 5-minute video. It's pretty fun. You'll see me score some penalties, not all of them, but a few. So check that out if you haven't. Anyways, back to the game, guys. Let's read some of your comments. Let's go with Vincenzo Bertillo. When Buongiorno celebrated hard with Oliveira for winning a Faldiene, it showed how much these 3 points meant for us. That is one of the most important parts of the game, in my opinion. That made it into my sort of highlights of the game that we will talk about later on, because exactly but not just Oliveira, the subs, Simeone, him, the other ones, they came in and they made a real impact, right? Maybe they didn't contribute with a goal. I mean, in the case of Simeone, he was in the build up to the penalty. But what they did is that they really came in with the right mindset, the right attitude, and that's so important in these games, that the substitutes bring something fresh, new, and the right attitude to the team. And they did that, and you could tell that it meant so much for the players, even just getting that foul on the 95th minute. So yeah, 100% agree. All is saying scrappy, but hey, a win is a win against Empoli. It isn't always guaranteed, so I will definitely take 3 points today. Exactly. We're on the same page here. And there is no easy game. I mean, when you look at it on paper, you think Empoli could be easy. Then you start to think, okay, Napoli historically struggled there. But especially this year, Empoli is a solid side. If there was any year for Napoli to not get 3 points against Empoli, it would have been this year, because Empoli this year are not the same team of the past that struggle. This is a team that is well organized. Their last 3 games at home, they haven't conceded anything. The only good thing that was going our way heading into this match, that was proven to be true also in this match, is that Empoli really struggle to find that final pass, that final shot on goal. And there's a reason why their last 3 home games ended 0-0, 0-0, and 0-0. They struggle with that final third, but in the first half, they put us under a lot of pressure. It's also very clear, I think, or it was clear to me watching the game that, okay, we were struggling in the first half, but there was no way Empoli could keep this up for 90 minutes. They were always going to have a bit of a drop, and it ended up being the case. But then what you have to do as a coach, what you have to do as Conte, is that you have to make sure that you bring in the right people, the people with grinta, into the match, and keep that level high with your own team as Empoli start to drop. Because guess what? They'll put new fresh forces on as well. So you always have to match them or be better. And you bring on guys like Simeone and Oliveira. Like I don't want to be and Neres. I don't want to be like stereotypical or anything. But South American players have a bit more fighting spirit than a European player or any other, in my opinion. And so to bring on that trio plus Mazzocchi, Neapolitan, to bring on those four is exactly what you need off the bench. You need guys that are going to go out there and sacrifice themselves. They're going to fight for every ball. And if I was the coach and I'm looking at the bench, I'm putting the South Americans on. I'm putting the Neapolitan guy on. I don't want to be stereotypical, but these guys, it's a positive thing. Have fighting spirit. That's what you want from these guys. And they brought that, they're willing to make those kind of sacrifices, really willing to put their body on the line. That's what we needed in the second half. That's what they brought to us. So I'm very happy with the way that the substitutions happened. Vincenzo Bertillo is saying Rui is clear of Spina. Look, Spina, I think he's a bit unlucky, right? Because he came in to this team thinking that he would be a starter because Conte was going to play with five at the back. And he's one of the best playing five at the back, but he's very limited when we play with four. And it seems like now we're playing a bit more with four at the back, and it limits Spina a lot. So I don't want to judge him because I think he's been played out of position. So yeah, obviously between the two, if I was playing five at the back, I would want Spina. If I was playing four at the back, I would want Mauro Rui. Let's see if Mauro Rui ever comes back into this team. Maybe, but I think it's very unlikely. I think it would have to be that both of them are injured, which is not the case. Lukaku struggled today. Yes. So let me just get some more comments from the members, guys. Don't worry, I will try to get to every single comment, but let me just go with the members first. Dom in the house. Let's go. Slick new training kit you got on, brother. Yeah, man, this training kit is super nice. I think compared to the other classic shirts, it's a bit tighter. So like if you buy a normal Napoli shirt of Emporio Armani, think that this training kit is a bit tighter in terms of dressability than the others. But it's super nice. I love the way it looks. So yeah, very cool. The boys were sound and a unit today, kept their head in the match and were patient. I think that's key, right? I think that even though today we lacked a bit of quality, we lacked Lobotka in the middle, that was sort of our director. Everybody else had to kind of step up, right? And maybe we couldn't really fill that quality. We couldn't step up in terms of quality, but we stepped up in terms of being a unit. And I think in the second half, we all realized, or in between the first and second, we all realized that we needed to do more. And everybody put in a better shift in the second half. And that's what you want from these guys. Right, let's get to some of the other older comments first, and then we'll get into the analysis a little bit more of the game. Zach Pagaduan says, Neres is special. Kvara lacking a bit of creativity, a bit one-dimensional today. Whole team a bit underwhelming, but a win is a win. Yeah, look, the thing with Kvara, guys, is that today it was not easy for him because today he was playing much more isolated than in previous games, and he had sometimes 2, even 3 Empoli players on him. Then when he spent a lot of energy, guys, trying to press up the field against those Empoli players, and there was no one around him that was following. And I think you always have to think when you're judging a player, how are the players around him playing? And today, Lukaku, not great. Politano was focused a lot more defensively than offensively. McTominay as well. He had to cover a lot for Gilmore today. And Gisa also couldn't follow the action as much because I feel like Gilmore struggled defensively, and so everybody was a bit more cautious going back. That means that when we did have the ball going forward, oftentimes it was just Kvara up there against the entire Empoli defense. It's not very easy. So when you judge a player, you also have to judge based on sort of what's happening around him. And it was not easy for Kvara today. But in the end, he had that one chance with the penalty. He took it. Very good penalty. He first saw where the keeper was going to go, and then he put it in the other direction. He put it down the middle, which is what I said I would do. So maybe he watched my video yesterday because I took some penalties yesterday in the video. But yeah, going down the middle is always the best thing. And yeah, in the end, the one chance that he really needed to step up, he stepped up. So I've got no problem with his performance. Is it a performance that he will tell his grandkids? No, it's not. And the player ratings will reflect that throughout. No one's going to tell their grandkids about this, but it's a win. And the important thing was not to mess up. Away at Empoli and we win and we're still first, I'll take it, exactly. Jason says these are the Scudetto winning games. Play average and still get the 3 points. Can definitely see the difference without Lobo. Oliveira great when he came on, and Politano nearly 90 minutes. Politano, I think, is gonna blow up at some point because this guy, he was not used to playing this much with other coaches. But he's doing a tremendous shift, Politano, sacrificing himself a lot defensively, really understanding that in this team, there's other players that can take care of the attack more than he can. And what he needs to do is provide balance between the team, right? And so he has to step back a little bit. He does that very well, very well. And in fact, there's a reason why Neres came on for Kvara and not for Politano, because Politano has that level of extra going for him defensively that those other guys don't have. In a game like this, that's 1-0, it's important. Very typical Conte game. Yeah, these are all games that, like, winning teams with these, the old Mourinho, the Contes, these are the teams that end up winning a Scudetto, end up winning a title. And when you look back at their 38 games, there's going to be 10 or 15 of them that you think, how did they win that? And then it just happens to be that you get 1 or 2 chances in the game, and the players stepped up in those 1 or 2 chances. That's what happened with us today. We got really 1 or 2 chances to hurt Empoli's defense. There was a bit of a distraction with one of their defenders. Di Lorenzo came in, took advantage of the situation. Then Kvara had to step up for the penalty. Boom, you win, right? But you have to be there. You have to have those bodies there in the box for that to happen. You have to make sure that you don't concede for that to happen, because had we conceded in the first half, then we would have never had that opportunity in the first place. Winning while playing badly gets you titles. Everybody is kind of on this trend. In my opinion, Caprile saves the day and should be player of the match, says Sean. I think he had a very good game. I'm not sure those saves were necessarily like world-class level or super difficult. They were more kind of directed on him. So I think he had a good game, but nothing crazy, in my opinion. I think he's expected to make those kind of saves. Spinazzola doesn't want to play with Kvara, and this is bad for us. I don't think that's the case. I think they I don't know. I didn't get this feeling, but maybe I need to check this out a bit more next time. I'll keep it in mind for next time. Lucky we got 3 points. I'm not sure it's luck, right? I think, as we said, guys, you have to be there in those moments. And I guess it was lucky that Empoli didn't have a top striker in front for them. So I guess that's a little bit lucky. But at the same time, in the second half, we didn't concede any chances to them. So to what extent is that, being lucky? I think in the end, in the second half, we stepped it up and we did what we had to do. The penalty was not a gift from the referee. I think the penalty was there. It was there. Give Gilmore time to learn the language and build chemistry. I'm hesitant with Gilmore in the defensive side of things. I think going forward, I've seen enough from Gilmore from his playing time, not only at Brighton but Chelsea. I've seen enough to know what he can do there. I was surprised today defensively because he was also someone that I've seen in the past get stuck in defensively. Today, it seemed like the others were just running circles. Now, this is also a game after the Nation League and all that, where like our players were all playing international games. I'm not sure exactly the number of players that Empoli had playing international football, probably a lot less than ours. And whereas for example, an Italian player, for example, we played against Israel, okay, a week ago. You don't have to try that hard because you're so much better than them, right? So you score your first two goals and then you can sort of like relax. I think if you play for a team like Scotland, which Gilmore does, you have to give it 110% every game for your national team because if you don't, you're going to get battered. That's just the reality of it, right? If you want to make sure that you get points, you got to give it 100%. So these guys playing for these national teams, it's tough. They spend a lot of energy out there during the week. So maybe it was just a matter of him being a little bit, not fully match fit. So that's what I think about Gilmore's performance. Simeone was better than Lukaku today. I think he was honestly, I put him as like my man of the match. Spoiler alert. Shmuel M says, I found myself thinking, good job, Politano, a lot this game. His work rate was quite good. It was. It was very good. Politano, I think, was instrumental. There's a reason why he played 90 minutes. Ton of tactical growth because he is now using 4-3-3. Yeah, when we switched it up in the second half, this team is very much able to adapt to the opposition. I'm not sure if you guys watched the video from last week that I made with Rabona TV. I'll put his name in the comments, Rabona TV. But I'm sure you guys know him. He's got like 300,000 subscribers. Okay, I made a video with him last week where we spoke about Napoli, and one of the things that he wanted to know was about our systems of play. And one of the things I said is that we are very much a team that adapts not only to the opposition, but also sometimes to specific moments of the game. You will see a specific formation in the first half, then in the second half we change, and then in the last 10 minutes we change again. We are happy to change formations, which is, not every team can do that. Historically, Napoli has not really done that. And when we've tried, it's not always gone very well. With Conte, it's a little bit different. Go check out that video, guys, afterwards with Rabona TV. It's quite nice, and subscribe to his channel because it's I don't watch much football content on YouTube except for Rabona TV and one other guy. That's literally it. So I respect a lot the work that he puts in. I'm not just saying that because I appeared on his channel. I was a big fan way before. Foxdrop says, will Ibaka be back in time for the Milan game? Potentially. Potentially. I think against Lecce, we'll still see Gilmore. There's no point in risking Lobotka. Um, we've got an entire season ahead of us. I think Gilmore, he's got room for improvement. Let's let that happen, and then we'll see. Guys, I will go 2 seconds, okay, to grab my charger because I realized it's not yet plugged in. So if we don't want this live to end, I'm gonna have to just excuse myself for 2 seconds, okay? All right, where can I put this charger? I gotta find my charger. All right. All right, there we go. There we go. We got life back into this computer. It's crazy how much battery is consumed when you go live. Like you're like the computer just, you know. Um anyways, back to football. Let's see. Paolo says playing without Lobotka is so noticeable. Gilmore looked uninspiring. Still needs time. Yes, I think. Look, he tried a few forward passes, which is nice. I like that he has a personality in that. I think he could have done more. But what really didn't inspire me is not so much his passing. It was more his defending. Like we'll see it in the analysis. I think players were running past him way too easily, way too easily. Let's kick off. Says wow, Empoli was tough. They play with super high intensity and pressing. Also good to see Lukaku not throw fit when Conte pulled him out early. Look, I think Lukaku, Kvara, all these guys that were substituted, I think they were quite happy to be substituted off when they were because it was a tough game out there, and I think they gave it everything. They were 100% out of energy, I think, at that point. Guys, with Lukaku, we're still waiting for him to be fully match fit, right? Like, this is a guy who didn't have at all a summer retreat. So let's give him time. There's going to be games that are a bit more difficult for him. And we know, I said it when he arrived, no? In my introduction to Lukaku video and all that. He is someone that starts off very well because he feels that enthusiasm of being in a new club. He's always doing very well the first few games, and then he goes through a period where he kind of falls asleep a little bit because I think he pushes his body very hard, and then I think his body sort of it takes a toll on him, and he needs a bit of time to sort of decompress and then to start off again. Maybe he's entering that phase now. I'm not sure, but we have to really, I think, be careful with Lukaku how we manage him, and I think he knows that as well. So honestly, taking him off in the 60th minute so that he doesn't push himself too much, I think is a good thing. And I think he realizes that the season is super long. He needs to manage his energies for the season. If Kvara watched your video, he would have hit the crossbar. Bruh, that is, that is, that's, that's harsh, man. That's harsh. Look, let me clarify why I hit the crossbar. I basically hit top bins twice. It was top corner, okay? But they don't want you to win. So they gave me 80 points twice instead of 100. So I needed a pure 100 points or at least 90 to win the poster in the video of yesterday, right? That means that it needed to be without a doubt top corner. Like it had to basically go and basically touch the crossbar and the post, both of them, and still go in. And I tried a little bit too hard and I hit the crossbar. Okay. But if this was a normal match, there's no way I would have put it all the way up there. I would have controlled it much more. And as I said, I would have just shot it down the center. Um, I always shoot it down the center when I used to play. It's just also because when I used to play, nobody used to know who you were, right? So they don't watch your videos of what you did in the past. So everybody just dives and like no one ever thinks to put it down the center. I don't know. It's super weird. But yeah. Anyways, Matthias is saying Kvara is fantastic, but I think the weakest part of his game is mental. He needs to become more mentally resilient if he wants to take it to the next level, regardless of fouls, referees, and stuff. Yeah, I think so, right? So for example, there was that moment in the first half, guys, where there was a foul on Kvara that wasn't called for, or not even a foul actually. They took the ball off Kvara, I think, quite normally. It was a great tackle, and Kvara got a little bit kind of upset and then went and fouled the Empoli player. He didn't get a yellow card, so it's fine. But imagine he got a yellow card for something like this. It's quite silly. And these yellow cards, they build up and then you miss a game. So he does need to improve on that a little bit. I think I understand him as well because he gets a lot of fouls and abuse and all that during the game. So it's not easy to stay to stay calm. And the referee doesn't help because the referee 50% or more of the time doesn't call it. But I think he should realize that, okay, this is the situation. He should expect it that the referee doesn't call a foul. And so then he shouldn't, that should allow him to stay a bit more calm. But he's young, he will improve. Vincenzo saying Gilmore too far forward first half, second was a bit better positionally. Yeah, I think that's a very important point. I think he tried, you know, going a bit too far forward, and then when we were dispossessed, he didn't have that sprint to get back into position, and we struggled a lot. Right. Let's go into the analysis, guys, of the game. So, look, in the first half, it was all Empoli, really. And they had a few of these kind of shots from these kind of angles, right? There was this one from this side, great volley, straight to Caprile. But still, Caprile, had to be careful not to get this ball, go underneath his legs, I guess. Then there was another one from the other side, but very similar, so there's no need to show it again. But it was all Empoli in the first half, guys. And look, we struggled a lot to work the ball, right? There was a lack of creativity with how we were working the ball. This is an example, right, of our three midfielders. McTominay comes in a little bit closer to receive the ball. In this case, he receives it, but then I think as McTominay comes closer to receive the ball, I think in this case the strikers should have also followed, so that when he turns around, like in this case, he has someone in this position that he can pass it to. But maybe Lukaku was not in the best form, and so Lukaku stays very separated, and so the distance between our three midfielders and the forward was too much. It was too much. There's no way that McTominay here can make a pass towards Lukaku that you cannot even see on the screen. That pass is way too long. It will get intercepted by the players, by the opposition players. You need to be, within a certain distance for the pass to really be effective. So what choice does McTominay have? McTominay, who doesn't like to pass the ball backwards, passes it sideways towards Billy Gilmore, towards Anguissa, but this is a very crowded area, and so obviously then Napoli lose the ball, also because they don't do it fast enough, right? And that was kind of what was happening a lot in that first half, is that there was no link between the midfield and attack, so the midfielders and defenders were passing the ball to each other, but without the quality of Lobotka in there, and so we were losing the ball, right? And that was a very big issue. This is another example, right, of, I think here it's Buongiorno, not making a mistake, or it might be Rahmani. It's probably Rahmani. Makes a mistake. Yeah, it's Rahmani. Makes a mistake. He's trying to pass the ball either to Politano or Di Lorenzo and passes it in between the two of them. It's not a tactical mistake, right? It's a technical mistake, but I think it's a mistake that happens after so much of you seeing your teammates struggle. It lowers your self-esteem as well, your confidence as well. You start to get nervous, and then those nerves kick in and you mess up a pass that you shouldn't really mess up. But yeah, there was a lot of very basic mistakes happening in that first half. And then this is the part of Billy Gilmore defensively. Look, he was getting ran past a lot by these Empoli players. And this Empoli team is athletically one of the strongest teams in the Serie A. But you would expect a guy from the Premier League to be able to keep up with the pace of the Serie A. I felt like Gilmore was a bit under his potential. I know he can do better. I've seen him play in the Premier League. I know he can do better. Maybe he, as we said, maybe he spent a lot of energy with Scotland. I'm not sure, but he was getting ran past a little bit too much, in my opinion. And this was happening sort of throughout the game. This was another example a few minutes later where both Anguissa and Gilmore were too far forward to be an effective filter for the defense. This is something that Vincenzo has said, and it's in the comment below. That's why I kept it at the bottom of the screen. Because if you look at their position here, it's exactly the truth. They're too far forward. They're not able to filter defensively, and now it's a 3v3. If Empoli had more quality in attack, this would have been maybe a goal by the other team. Thankfully, they don't have that level of quality in attack. Then the second half, right? And this is what the editing here, madre mia. The editing here, yeah, sorry for the weird cutout. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger at least, and then move it like that. And then one sec, guys, let me just adjust to, yeah, let's do this. Fine, whatever. It sucks, but let's move on. I forgot to edit that part out. But this is the second half, right? Di Lorenzo sees an opportunity, right? This is a scrappy goal. This is Di Lorenzo coming all the way up from center back position. He's the most far forward player of Napoli right now. And he sees an opportunity to get a foot in ahead of the Empoli defender who lacks maybe that awareness that Di Lorenzo might do something like this. And then you have Simeone who just come onto the field, who has that, that spark in him that we were speaking about, that hunger to get to the ball. He reacts the quickest, takes a shot, it gets blocked by the defender, but then it bounces off and it reaches Politano, who gets fouled. And this is, Politano as well, guys. He's been doing a lot of back and forth in this match. So credit to him for being at the right place at the right time. Look, for me, this is a clear penalty. Someone was saying that it's not a penalty. For me, this is pretty clear. A defender has no idea where the ball is. I think there might be even a step on foot. So clear penalty for me. Kvara takes it very well. Again, he hasn't had a good game necessarily, but when it mattered, he was there. That's the important. And then, the second half, there wasn't that much emotions going on, but the substitutes came on, and I think they made a real impact. This is the 95th minute. Oliveira takes the ball, dribbles past one or two Empoli players, really relieves a huge amount of pressure from Napoli because, like getting a goal against us on the 96th minute would have killed us. Would have killed us, guys. But Oliveira stepped up. Not only him, but also Simeone, because before this, first Simeone puts his body on the line after already having his head, wounded before. He still puts his body on the line. Then Oliveira, and they relieve a lot of pressure from us. So this was a key point in the game, guys. With just a few seconds left, it was so important to get the ball, to get this free kick, because the last thing you wanted was 30 seconds of Empoli putting the ball forward, maybe getting a corner, then maybe getting a goal. Like, guys, no. That would have been horrible. So this is one of the key points of the game here, these last 30 seconds, and those guys stepped it up very, very well. Buongiorno was brilliant today. Yeah, I think Buongiorno was good. Look, I think the quality of Empoli's attackers is not great, and that's also reflected in the player ratings. He obviously had a better game than Rachmani. You'll see in the player ratings, it's always a bit relative to the opposition, right? I'm not gonna give Buongiorno like a 10 out of 10, right? For playing against Esposito. We need to adapt a little bit, but yeah, he was good. He was good. Let's see some more. Gilmore was awful in the first 45. Then he understood the game a bit more in the second half. But he is a good player. I do agree. I just remember Cayusta because of Gilmore. I just remember what Cayusta did when he had a debut. Gilmore had a very good debut compared to him. And I think that's, yeah, like your debut game can make or break. Look at Scott McTominay. He had a brilliant debut, and that already puts him on a different trajectory, right? Whereas Cayuste, last year. He had his debut, conceded a penalty, which was not even a penalty, but that just killed him mentally, and he never recovered. Um, so yeah, I mean, when you start well, you're already 50% of the way there, right? That's a saying that we have in Italian. It's like starting well means that it just puts you on the right track, right? And I think Scott did that. Gilmore, at least he didn't start bad. At least he didn't make a mistake. But he could improve. He could have had a better debut. I think questions will be asked on whether he's able to replace Lobotka effectively or not. I think those questions in the newspapers will be asked. But everybody needs to chill with Gilmore. Didn't have a brilliant game, but nor did anybody else. Plus, it's his first game. Was a solid player for Brighton. Us fans have just gotten used to Lobo's quality. I think one of the questions, though, is did other players play worse because they didn't have Lobotka next to them? If so, then the aspect of Gilmore becomes important because if every time that Lobotka leaves the team and you put in Gilmore, everybody's level goes down, that's a problem. But if it's not the case, if it's just that everybody was playing bad because they were tired from their national teams or whatever, then it's, those two things are not related. But if we start seeing a pattern, then we have to ask ourselves the question of can we really play without Lobotka? And it's not the question of is Gilmore better or not, and is he a good player or not. It's more about what can this Napoli team do without Lobotka? Are they able to be that same quality of team? So yeah, let's go into the player ratings, guys, because we spoke a little bit about them. So this is my player ratings. I think for me, the two worst on the field were Gilmore and Lukaku. Look, I'm sorry for for Gilmore, but I felt the lack of Lobotka a little bit too much, and it's his debut, fine. But I'm trying to also be a bit objective, right? I think he could have done a better job knowing the quality that he has, right? This is always relative as well to the quality of a player. Like, I'm giving him a 5 out of 10 because I know he can do so much more, and this is not a reflection of his, it's not a reflection of, I think Gilmore is a 5 out of 10 player. No, I'm saying Gilmore today played at 50% of his capability. It's just my honest opinion, which means that he has more capabilities to show, which is a good thing. I trust the player a lot. Like Lukaku. Lukaku today was inexistent. Didn't help with anything, couldn't hold the ball, didn't press the defenders, didn't have a shot, didn't put anybody through on goal, nothing. I was even thinking of putting a 3, but then I thought it's a bit harsh because he didn't receive many chances, and a 3 for a striker would mean that you missed 3 open goals, like, so I said, okay, maybe not. But yeah, those two guys I think could have done better. Spinazzola as well. He gets downgraded also because of how well Oliveira came into the game, and there was a huge difference in intensity, and so you're always going to be compared with the guy that replaces you, right? It's like in Formula One. You don't really know if one driver is better than the other because they're on different cars. The only one that you can compare is the two teammates in the same type of car, in the same type of machinery. It's the same a little bit in football. You can only really compare Spinazzola with Oliveira because you cannot really compare him to, for example, Di Lorenzo's performance because they're up against different opponents down different flanks. But with Oliveira, you can compare him, and Oliveira had a much better game. He dealt with those opponents, those exact same opponents, much better. So, yeah, that difference in class and intensity was quite evident. But as we said, Spinazzola suffers from this four-man defense. Buongiorno played well, much better than Rachmani, and that's a difference in ratings there. But again, I'm calibrating this a little bit to Empoli's attack, which is I think the worst part of their team. they've got a team that's super solid defensively and in midfield, but then they don't have any quality really or enough quality going forward to trouble opposition. And it's their fourth game at home without scoring a goal. So it's not like Buongiorno was up against, Cristiano Ronaldo. No. So I think a 6.5 is fair. Rachmani a bit worse. I think he suffered a lot more. It didn't lead to any goals conceded, but he was struggling out there. Also, his passing not great at times. So yeah. Who else should we talk about? The midfielders, Anguissa. I think he did well because I think he had to cover a lot for Gilmore, as did McTominay. McTominay a bit under par, maybe for his standards, so that's why a 6. Kvara and Politano 6.5. Look, they could have done much more offensively. There was a lack of inspiration or magic, let's say, but at least they were there when it mattered. In the occasion of the penalty, Kvara scored it. That's very important. Politano acquired the penalty. That's very important. He also did a lot defensively. Di Lorenzo as well. Di Lorenzo, there was a few mistakes here and there, but he was there to make sure that the penalty was awarded to us. It was his run down the flank. Maybe he even deserves higher than that. Caprile, not a lot of huge amount of difficult saves, but the three that he had to do, yeah, they were on him, but he had to do them and he did them. Now, where I think the average of player ratings is a bit higher is on the subs. As we said, a lot of impact from these guys. Oliveira, Simeone, they came on, and I think they helped everybody also play a bit better. There's sometimes football is a little bit about that. You bring on Simeone and 2 minutes later you score. I mean, these are players that for whatever reason in certain games they bring something. They bring something extra, and today Simeone did that. He brought that intensity, and I think the players were realizing that Lukaku today was not in his best form, and I think it lifted everybody up seeing that Simeone was entering, because I don't think the starting 11 was happy, or the other 10 players were happy with how Lukaku's performance was up until his substitution. And so when you see him leave and you see Simeone come on, it lifts you, and there's a reason why then you score a minute later. I think it does it does influence a lot. Just your presence on the field, and not only his presence, but then he also backed it up with a good performance. And then Conte 6, guys, because look, it's a win, it's 3 points, it's a clean sheet, but we suffered a lot. We suffered a lot against this Empoli team. And reflecting, it's happening a bit too much. And on the one hand, it's good, but Cagliari, Empoli, Parma, all these teams, I think we could have done more in terms of scoreline, in terms of clear, convincing wins. And how many times can this Napoli team get away with 3 points playing like this? Maybe we can do it. I'm not saying we can't. Some of the best teams, I mean, Conte's own Juventus was a lot like this. But do we have that in our DNA to do that for 38 games? I'm not sure. And so, because I'm not sure, this is sort of my way to give Conte feedback of, okay, great, we have a team that's resilient, but let's try in the next few games to also focus a bit more on getting the quality up. Let's focus a bit more on how we can find mechanisms to get through on goal a bit easier. So yeah, I worry. I worry because I have a feeling that we are walking on thin ice we're getting the 3 points, and that's great. And but we're walking on thin ice, and maybe we make it across the lake, but there might be a time when we don't. And there was already an example of this season with Verona, right? Where we were playing a very similar level as this, but Kvara got substituted because he got a hit on the head. We didn't have maybe some key players that we then got, such as Lukaku and Buongiorno and all that, and we collapsed. So, today we still had those players to keep the ship floating. But what happens if we play like this and next time Loboka's not there and maybe Buongiorno is injured, or then we don't have anywhere to stand on, right? So we have to start building a bit more quality with the way we play, uh, and bring in some of those elements from Spalletti, I think a little bit more. Um, but yeah, still, it's a 6 out of 10. We pass him. We pass Conte for for this. I also want to, guys, give a huge thanks to all the members of the different tiers of Napoli Talk Club. I intend to post a lot more shorts for you. I think I've posted 4 or 5 only in the last month. I want to do this a bit more on a weekly basis, but the last 2 weeks with work were absolutely crazy, guys. I had like 100-hour weeks, so it was super difficult. But I intend to, do that a bit more. And then there's obviously the match predictor game and everything. But even if you just want to have the loyalty badges for your comments, right? I think that's also quite useful because I see those comments and boom, I reply to them, such as, I see here Dom Apuzzo, he has a loyalty badge. So I'm going to read his comment first. And he says, we need to talk about Oliveira, how the Uruguayan has grown, especially on the defensive end. Yeah, I think this, especially since this summer, right? He played center back for Uruguay in the Copa America, and it's like it unlocked something in him. Um, and he's been very solid defensively, much more than last year. So yeah, I mean, guys, if you want to support, go ahead. If not, don't worry. I still read all your comments. This is it's completely optional, but for those that are supporting, thank you. This is already starting to be quite a nice list, and this stuff can really help with like equipment. And for example, I went to the Maradona exhibition. I would have done that anyways. Um, but it's nice. I can say that I kind of like used the membership pot that I have to pay for those tickets. It's nice, just to know that. And then obviously I make something out of it, right? Because I go there, but not just for myself. Then I make a video for you guys, so you guys get a return on that as well. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, let's go to the stats, guys, of the game, because I think it's very interesting to see actually how Napoli was able to balance it out in the second half, because the first half looked very painful for us in terms of the stats were swinging all towards Empoli, but then in the second half, guys, we recovered a lot. As I said, Empoli, there's no way they could have kept that up for a full 90 minutes, and then you see that everything kind of balanced out a bit. But also, what these stats show me is how well this Empoli team is being coached by D'Aversa. I mean, normally we play against Empoli and they're not so, you know, so they don't have so much possession of the ball. They don't have 7 corners or 11 shots and almost 400 passes. But this Empoli team, it's very different from the others, and you can tell, they're 11th with 10 points this season. Um, Much improved from what they were a few months ago. But the most important thing, guys, is here at the top. Napoli, number one, 8 games, 19 points, not bad. Juventus with 16, 3 points behind us. Very, very fortunate yesterday. In some occasions, they they got a lucky own goal. Douglas Luiz didn't get a red card, but we know how those things are. Then let's see Inter what they do tonight against Roma. I think it's not an easy game that they have, and there's potential. There's potential to gain some serious points against Inter. So that's something to look out for. So guys, that is the situation. Our next game is against Lecce. It's a team that has been struggling, but they're not. Look, they're not the worst, right? I mean, actually, no, they're pretty bad. They're their only win was against Cagliari in August, so they're pretty bad. But and let's see, they're losing 2-0 against Fiorentina. But these are games that you cannot underestimate, right? You have to go there, you have to win. They're gonna put a lot of men behind the ball. You have to go and win. And then we have a series of games, guys, Milan, Inter, Atalanta, Torino, Roma. We have everyone to play for afterwards. So this is a must-win game against Lecce for us. We get as big of a buffer as we can against the others, and then we go through those intense 6 or 7 games leading up to Christmas, guys. Let's see if yeah. So three people played the match predictor this week, and you guys all got 3 points. So it's a tight yeah, it's a tight table at the moment for those playing that game. Let's go to the press conference of Antonio Conte, guys, and then we can wrap up the live. I'm getting quite good now, I feel. I'm making these lives 1 hour. We're at 52 minutes, and we can finish it in the next 8. So, yeah, let's see what Conte has to say. Let's also hear what Politano and Simeone had to say, but also Buongiorno had something to say. So let's see first Buongiorno. So I know I've got Conte up on the screen, but let's pretend it's Buongiorno. And he says, we knew it would have been hard. In the first half, we suffered a lot, but we managed to bring the result home. We have to prepare ourselves very well each week. Having players like Simeone that come on from the bench and they have such tremendous hunger is something that is a privilege to have and has to never, go away. Today, those that came off the bench really made the difference and raised the level. So this is Buongiorno, guys, saying this and completely agrees with my analysis of the game and my analysis of the player ratings. I think they were so key, the substitutions. Let's see what Simeone himself had to say. And he says, the most important thing in reaching the top is to have a lot of hunger, and not just from the guys that start the game, but everybody. When the game gets dirty, the guys that come off the bench are fundamental. We are all together in this journey. We have to demonstrate that also in training, and we see that with those that come off the bench. Then they ask him, is it the same vibes as 2 years ago? And Simeone says, I don't want to say anything. What you feel inside, and we just have to work day after day, game after game. But yes, there's a very good atmosphere, and we have to continue like this. That was Simeone, and now Politano, what he had to say. Guys, this coffee, like it's cold already. I'm having cold espresso because I made the espresso right before the live started. I was already late. I didn't have time to drink it, even though it's like 2 sips, and now it's been sitting there for an hour. But it's fine. I need coffee. Bah. Okay, it can pass this one time. But Matteo Politano says, we know the strength of this group. We have a lot of strong players. Today we demonstrated it. We have a very long team, with a lot of different players on the bench that can help us, all of the same level. We're very happy with what we're doing. They asked Politano if Conte said anything in between the first and second half, and he says, I know they what did they ask him? No, they ask him. The journalist says Conte said that you have changed a lot since your time at Inter, and Politano replies, "Yeah, I worked with Conte when I was at Inter, and I was under a different position compared to what he wanted me to do at that time. Then with age, you also mature, and now I'm a very different player, and yeah, when I was at Inter, I used to like attacking much more than defending. Now I'm willing to do that defensive work as well. I feel good physically. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm always trying to contribute to the team. But let's see, the season is still long. And they ask him, how much of Conte is in this Napoli team, and he says a lot. The coach really, he's a presence in the changing room. He put a lot of things right in between the first and second half, especially. Now let's hear finally from Conte, which is at the center of your screens, and let's see what he has to say. So the press conference starts, and they ask him about the substitutes, and Conte says, "Yeah, I'm very happy with the second half. The reaction that we had coming after the break, we changed something, a few things in the phase of possession, in the way that we attacked, and it gave us." Much better results. It was a completely different game in the second half, whereas in the first half, we were spectators. I didn't like this game in the first half. We were very nervous with the ball. This is a very difficult game historically for Napoli, and maybe we felt that a little bit. It makes me smile a little bit that we have to defend our first place, because simply that's not true. Like we're on a journey, and we just have to do well on this journey. It's not about defending, the first place. It's not about that. It's the focus should just be much more on the journey rather than our position in the league. We have to think about ourselves, and we have to just keep accumulating points. Empoli is one of the standout teams this season. They basically, blocked people from getting 3 points everywhere. So yeah, today it was always going to be tough. But I'm very happy that we got the 3 points. I'm very happy to have seen so many away fans follow the team. This love for the team, it's not something that puts pressure on us. It's not something that scares us. It's something that we have to use as armor going into games. We have to make sure that we pay back these fans that travel so much. But yeah, I have a very good team with very intelligent players that understood that the second half needed to be played in a different way compared to the first, and they needed to be more free in their heads. They asked him about Simeone, and he says, "Look, we prepared defensively to be at a 4-5-1, with if Pezzella from Empoli went forward, that Politano would stay back, right? But obviously we needed to improve a few things going forward, and so I had to make some changes up top, and so he brought on Simeone. He didn't, from his answer, he didn't really go too much into the detail of Simeone. It's a bit weird how they ask him about Simeone and he starts talking about Politano. But yeah, I think he could have done. I think in this case, Conte could have done a lot more to praise Simeone's entry into the game. About Gilmore, he says, "Look, it was his first game. He's growing. In the second half, he did much better, like everybody else in the team. He's an excellent player. I'm happy we have him. This is a difficult place to play football. In the first half, it was a very nervous game for everybody. I need to understand and analyze why that was the case, but I'm very happy that we had Gilmore as an option today. The first half was definitely, tricky for us, but yeah, let's make sure that we build off what we did in the second, and the same thing goes for Kvara. Same type of thoughts on Kvara as everybody else. That basically in the first half nobody played well, but then in the second half everybody sort of stepped it up. The important thing is that these players understand what it needs, what each game needs, and what specific moments of the game need. So yeah, that was Conte, guys. So it seems like he's satisfied with the 3 points in the second half, but not very happy with the first, like all of us. Let's get to some final comments, guys, before I close this off. Kvara has good stats this season, but I missed his gameplay. He has a lot of dribblings. Yeah, it's a bit weird, right? Because I liked Kvara more last year in terms of how he was playing, but his stats were really bad because he was not able to score much. This year, he's playing, I think, worse than last year, but he's scoring more. And it's like the conflict of like, okay, so what do I want? Do I want to watch beautiful football, but then, or do I want to watch a player play beautifully, dribble past 5 people and then miss? Or do I want to watch a player struggle but then score a goal? It's difficult, right? I think ultimately you're always going to prefer when they score. But you miss that. You miss seeing Kvara doing his beautiful dribbling, and today just it didn't happen for him. Maybe it happens in the next game. I don't know, but today was not to be. Thank you, Spalletti, for not playing Buongiorno. He was fresh and looked like a beast today. Yeah, this is Spalletti, like still being a bit of a Napoli fan, like he knows that Buongiorno is the best player for Italy's defense, and he just never plays. Fine, better for us. Lukaku didn't go on international duties and looked the most tired out of all of them. Yeah, I think it was not his best game. It was a strange one with Lukaku. I don't think anyone played well. But yeah, first match after international break is tough. Let's see. Dom here says, I think also that international break plus not having Lobo had to do with us looking a little shaky. Juve and Milan looked horrible this weekend coming off the break. I think that's a very good point. That Juve didn't convince me. 1-0. Milan 1-0 as well. Sure, they had the red card and everything, but these are teams that are struggling to score. Us as well, 1-0. Not a lot of goals after this international break. Not a lot of goals. So I think the most important thing is to get 3 points. And I said this in the video with Rabona TV. I think this Napoli team could fight for the title, but not because we're very good. We're not the same team of 2 years ago. That team was spectacular. This team can fight for the title because Juventus are also not very good. Milan are also not very good. Atalanta are also not very good. Inter are also not very good. And so we're all just on the same boat. And it's just a matter of who's going to pick up more points in a scrappy way. That's what this title is going to be about. It's about who can get the most scrappy points. Juron says, good morning. In my opinion, completely deserves at least a 7. For the rest, I agree. I remember that it was Gilmore's first real match on a historically difficult pitch. Yeah. I think maybe I was harsh on Caprile because I thought that these shots were quite central. But yeah, there were 3 of them, and yeah, maybe I could have given Caprile a 7. I agree. Fabrizio, ciao, come stai? We won a dirty match, plus 3 points. That's the most important thing. And this is a team that historically doesn't win dirty matches. So this is very good to know. Vincenzo Bertillo, everybody smash that like button. That's true, guys. How many likes have we got? We've got we've got 48 likes, and there's about 60 of you still watching after an hour, which is incredible. So this video is about to end soon. Guys, when this video ends, you minimize the full screen and you smash that like button, okay? If you don't do that, Napoli will not win the next game. So it's up to you, huh? It's up to you whether you want Napoli to win the next game. I mean, I told you the rules, you know? Uh, ciao, Don. Dom. Couldn't join the live earlier. Tough game as always against Empoli, but games like this make me feel confident in the team. How much of a points gap before we can say the S word? I'm not sure that this year we will have a points gap like 2 years ago that we say, oh, okay, now we're gonna win the title. This year, I have a feeling that everybody's gonna be super close with each other. Like, no one's going to run away with it. So we're all gonna be there within 3, 4, 5 points throughout the entire time. So I think now what's important is that we win against Lecce. Let's see if Inter drop points against Roma. We build a little bit of a gap, hopefully. We already have 3 points on Juve. We have a bit more on Milan. But then we play against these teams, right? We play against Inter, Milan, and then we see if we don't win, let's at least try to draw. And the others, even if we draw, the others will maybe gain some points on us, the ones playing the different games. But hopefully, what we have built up in terms of gap will be good. But yeah, potentially by the end of November, we might not be first still. We might be second or third. I think that will just continuously change throughout the year. I think it's going to be very tight. It's going to be very fluid. I think a lot of teams are going to take points off each other. The bottom half of the table looks competitive. You have historically teams that usually are guaranteed 3 points that now I'm thinking like, oof, these guys can also pose a bit of a threat to the top teams. So it's going to be interesting. I think, let me answer this. To win the title this year, I think you only need 82 points. That's my feeling. It's going to be lower than other years. Normally you need 86, 87. Some years you need in the 90s. I have a feeling we're going to take a lot of points from each other this year, the different teams. So it's going to be lower, the threshold. It's going to be 82 points. But let's see. Let's see. It's going to be tight. There's going to be a lot of teams there, and it could even go down to 1 point goal difference, things like this. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And as always, guys, Forza Napoli sempre. Go smash that like button. Then subscribe if you haven't. Go watch my video that I did at the Maradona Museum because it was very fun to go there. And then go watch the video with Rabona TV if you haven't. And then you do whatever you want with your Sunday. Okay? These are the 4 things that you have to do. Okay? All right. I'll see you guys. Bye. And as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.